Once it's up, we will get started. All right, welcome in, everybody. I am Mr. America, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you for the replay views. Thank you for all the support so far, for sharing it out, bringing your friends, your family, and everyone else in, so we can enjoy a conversation about the issues that are going on in America today, as well as talk about some of the topics that are hitting the world as a whole. We'll start off with the big question. Do you believe in everything Alex Jones says? No, I don't have to agree with what he says, but I'll fight for his right to say what he says to the death. Thank you, Matt. By the way, welcome in. And so tonight I want to first start off. There's two big censorship things that have come on. I want to first start off and say that yes, it is well within their rights, their ownership, to be able to choose who is allowed to use their platforms and who is not allowed to use their platforms. But we're first, because Alex Jones was mentioned, and I do have it in the title here on Periscope, is the Alex Jones situation. So yes, 2 days ago, it was reported that the wonderful world of Apple, the tolerant, loving, adoring, acceptable Apple, has permanently banned Alex Jones, InfoWars, and associated apps from being utilized on their platform. Welcome in, Ben Gay. They've decided that it's just so egregious. His views are just filled with hate speech, this, that, and the other, and therefore he must be silenced. So Apple doing what Apple does best, and that is silencing people that dissent from their core beliefs, and controlling the narrative. And I think we can all agree that no one should be silenced just because you disagree with them, right? I enjoy discussions with communists. I enjoy discussions with socialists. I enjoy intelligent discussions. Yes. Even when he says egregious, disgusting things, I am a free speech absolutist, right? I don't defend James Gunn, but I defend James Gunn's ability to speech, right? That's the big thing. So the other form of censorship that has came about in recent time was over the weekend. We had, and I'm gonna take both of these stories and I'm gonna lay them out, and then we'll get the discussion of censorship as a whole. So over the weekend, if you guys remember, Barack Obama had his little spurt of I'm going to talk to the public. I'm going to become a public figure again. And he says this not as the former president, but as just another fellow American. So he said, the politics of division and paranoia has found a home, unfortunately, in the Republican Party. They've embraced wild conspiracy theories by those surrounding Benghazi or my birth certificate. Yes, I agree that the birth certificate is a wild conspiracy theory, but the Benghazi one, it's kind of a weird, throw it on out there, throw the Hail Mary and hope that somehow that sticks. I'm not really seeing any objectivity to the way that was, right? We've seen the emails. We've seen the lack of communication going on around Benghazi. We've seen the request for more security. We've seen that entire situation, but there was just a gross negligence by those who were supposed to be providing protection for the men and for the ambassadors. And that was just a huge failure. I'm failing to see where that is a wild conspiracy. Well, Chris Tonto Peranto, Tonto is his nickname, if you will, a man who was actually was involved there. He was Benghazi hero, is what he's being labeled as. Welcome in, Dad. Y'all are freezing. I'm sorry. I hope it gets better soon. I know my wife is using the TV right now, and if she's still listening, hopefully she'll cut that off and just watch me. But so his tweet, which got him into trouble, was Benghazi is a conspiracy theory, Barack Obama. How about we do this? Let's put your cowardly ass on top of a roof with 6 of your buddies and shoot RPGs and AK-47s at you while terrorists lob 81mm mortars, killing 2 of your buddies, all while waiting for U.S. support that was never sent. And he sent him the middle finger and then did #scum. Now, if we recall all the way back to last week, yeah, the wife is. Let me text her. If we can recall all the way back to last week, there was actually a congressional hearing. In which Jack Dorsey, right, the head of Twitter, was talking to members of Congress. One of the things that he was talking about, one of the disgusting things that he was talking about, was that he wanted to control the conduct of those who were on his platform. That's disgusting on any platform, right? That's disgusting to think that you should be able to control those who voluntarily use your platform. It's well within his rights. He can do that. I just disagree with it. I disagree with it on an ideological level. And so because Tonto had tweeted him and actually displayed what had occurred for the individuals involved in this Benghazi conspiracy theory, as portrayed by President Barack Obama, he was temporarily banned from Twitter. So it is disgusting for somebody to use the truth, the whole truth, well, maybe not the whole truth, but use the truth in order to aggress against somebody who is spewing lies. And so they temporarily banned him. He tweeted this out. After being in the Twitter penalty box for a few and having to delete the below tweet for offending the leftist hate group for their epic fail of telling Rob O'Neill that Barack Hussein Obama killed UBL. That was another good one. I should really find that tweet for you guys. I'm back. So he's at least back, but he was temporarily blocked again for that. And it's just, we see this failure. We see this failure where people are being silenced for basically for disagreeing. Thank you for the invite on the 929 followers. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So we see where this is just a continual aggression against people that are mostly on the right, people who aggress against the left ideologically with facts, with history, with logic. These are things that are just not acceptable whenever you're Apple or you're Twitter. I don't have to agree with Alex Jones. I don't have to agree with how he conducted himself towards Marco Rubio. Very bombastic, very in your face and trying to exaggerate everything that was happening there. I don't have to agree with that, but I can also understand that it's not the place of the government to silence people. And that was something that Marco Rubio has been on the record talking about. And it's not, it really shouldn't be up to the platforms to determine what is allowed and what is not allowed. It really shouldn't be. I know that it is, and that's why I continually urge people, look for other platforms. I just find out how to actually go about in getting Gab on my phone. So I have the app. I would recommend each and every one of you going and utilizing Gab. You can't get it by going on the Google store. You can't go on there and get it from the Apple store because, as we know, both of those platforms are not accepting of people who dissent from them, people who disagree with them. If you speak ill of the state, that is considered hate speech. If you speak ill of terrorism, that is hate speech. If you speak ill of the police, that is hate speech. It is, if you speak ill of somebody else because of the actions that they have taken, they consider that hate speech. So we all just have to live in very frou-frou land and just be tolerant of everybody and not criticize those who propagate lies, those who are continually deceitful, those who are just bombastic and ugly in every sense of their rhetoric. It's truly a frightening world in which these media platforms want us to live in. So what we must do is be able to know, how do these platforms survive, right? Let's go into the logic, right? Let's go into the economics of this. When it comes to how do platforms survive? They make revenue. How do they make revenue? They sell ads. How do the ads work? Well, the ads say they're going to spend money because they're going to increase their money that they're coming from. So don't utilize the ads. If you are purchasing things on Twitter through their ads, you are helping out those people. Don't click on the ads. Don't help them out. Actually, I think if you do just click on the ads, everyone clicks on the ad, it actually makes it to where Twitter pays them. That could be some of the ways that the formulas are set up. But if you don't purchase anything, it hurts them, right? Because then you're taking from the profits of Twitter. So they may have to allocate more money from these organizations, from these businesses in order to ensure revenue comes into them. That may be one way to hurt them. Another way is to walk away. The hashtag walk away movement shouldn't just be from the evil, totalitarian, lefty-driven, socialist-driven, borderline communistic ideas that is the Democratic Party. We have to walk away from them, and we are loving to see how many people are walking away from the Democratic Party. But we also have to walk away from the platforms in which are growing because of the Democratic Party. We need to move. We need to see people moving away from Twitter. We need to see people moving away from Facebook. We need to see people moving away from using Google, from using Apple. This is a long and arduous struggle that's going to be. But the thing is that we have to find other platforms to move to. Yeah, it's easy to leave Twitter, but it's not YouTube. I agree. I'm just starting on YouTube, and I know I disagree with it so much. I hate it. But I have to be able to find a way in order to help bring these things down, right? One of the things that you guys know about me, I'm going to be running for office. Why am I running for office? Am I running for office to make the government bigger, better, to fundamentally change it, to help it grow? No. I'm going in to help dismantle it, to help shrink it, to bring it smaller, to limit what capacity it has. And that is the exact idea that I have when it comes to going on YouTube, when I come on Patreon, when I come on to Twitter, when I come on Periscope, when I come on Facebook. All of these platforms, the reason why I am going after them is to actually help bring the voice to the people, to let them know what is actually happening, and to actually reduce this. Once I actually have a big audience, once we are hitting people and actually making a movement, I'm sure I will be silenced, and I'm welcoming that silencing. Right? If we see Alex Jones, whether you agree with or disagree with Alex Jones, his voice was bolstered, his voice was grown. Because Egg Drop is helping me reach out my voice. And I understand that Egg Drop does silence. I know that they censor. I know that they do that. That's fine. I'm using it in order to bolster the voice, to get more people out there. And it's that idea, right? To go in and work among them to bring around the ideological revolution, to bring people away from it, right? That's what we have to do when it comes to Twitter. That's what we have to do when it comes to these social media platforms. We have to encourage those who are involved in these areas, involved in technology, and involved in information, IT, and infrastructure building, and all social media platforms. We have to encourage them to create a platform like Gab.ai, like all these other platforms that are there not to control the speech, not to control the conduct of the people, but to, pardon me, but to allow the people themselves in order to speak, in order to voice their opinions, because bad ideas will be beaten by better ideas. Silencing bad ideas just makes the bad ideas grow. We saw this when it came to the Nazis, to the brown shirts in the 20s and 30s, the ways that they grew. The way that these the members of the brown shirt, the way that they grew was they would go into areas that were intolerant of them, that would actually commit acts of violence against them. And so they would go into these areas and they would walk through these streets, they'd walk through the towns, and they would just march. And then when they were attacked, they would say, look, we're a victim. We are a victim. Nobody wants to hear us, and they're silencing us by violence. And they actually grew because of that. That's how they fundamentally grew. So if we see bad ideas, we should challenge them with better ideas. You challenge them with better ideas, you pull away their followers. I have had discussions, I've gone on to people's scopes that are white supremacists, that are black supremacists, that are Nazis, that are alt-right, that are anti-Semites. I've been on these, right? I've been on these platforms, and I'm not doing that because I want to give credit or credence to what they think or to their views, but to actually open the eyes of their followers, to debase them through voluntary transaction of ideas, to challenge what they believe in. That's how you diminish people, is by educating people, not by silencing them. And so this is one of the problems that the big social media platforms are doing, is they're trying to silence, they're trying to squelch these ideas instead of allowing them to be free, instead of allowing the hate speech to be spread, if it is actually hate speech, and to be drowned out with better speech. So when they try to control the narrative, they're actually failing on two fronts. First, they're creating hatred for people like me, right? I don't like Twitter because they're silencing people. I don't have to agree with who they're silencing. I don't. But the fact that they want to silence people and say that they're a public forum, I disagree with that. I need to get away from that. I need to work people to help motivate people to create a movement to get away from them. That's my idea. That's what I want to do. So that's what I would encourage all of us to do. Yeah, we'll talk about Nike in a little bit. Oh, so Thomas, I did the research on your thing. 96 people have been executed since the execution has been processed in Florida. There's been exactly 0 racial executions from black men against white men, but you wanted to focus on one white guy being executed for a black racially killing. Are you saying that it's wrong that he was executed, or are you saying that it should be done more often, that more white men should be executed for the racial killing of black men? So I would implore you to actually look at the statistics a little more, because like I told you, I was going to look at everything. I was actually going to dive down deep into this. And there's been 0 black men that have been executed for the racially killing of white men. So I think that there's a fallacy there. There's also the issue of just the fact that there hasn't been that many executions. So you're really cherry picking there in order to try to make a big, huge argument there. Yeah, you're right. We do have a little bit of liberals in here. We have a lot of progressives in here, and that's fine. Allow them to come in here, and we can beat them with better ideas. That's the whole idea of what I've always stood for, is to allow the bad ideas to be heard, and we beat them with better ideas. So Thomas, I think that you need to do a little more education before you try to come in here and try to force me to go look into a topic and then not be able to defend it in any ways. Yes, we have lots of trolls. I apologize for the trolls. You're wrong. 96-1, something wrong. So 96 executions, all for the murders of other people, from anywhere from 13 people down to a single person being killed. Only one of them being a racially motivated one, and that was a white guy being killed or being executed because he killed a black man because of racial diversity. And you think that I'm somehow wrong. Got it. Cool. Thanks. It's so we hit the censorship on the social medias and how they're doing this, right? So we covered the Tonto hitting back former President Obama, and with that situation, right? He just hit him back with the facts and the story of what happened, and he was actually blocked on Twitter. That's a huge issue. And then for Apple blocking all of Alex Jones, InfoWars, and anything else. Oh, I won't block anybody. I'm in the don't block you, bro group. And having both of those situations, it's just another calling that we need to create a platform and an infrastructure in order to protect that platform from the infringement of those who want to control speech. We understand that the left wants to control speech in an absolute way. They want to control on what you call people by their pronouns. They want to control on what you can call people of different ethnicities, of what you can say about certain religions, what you're allowed to say about certain religions, what you are not allowed to say in regards to abortion, what you are allowed to say in regards to abortion. It's looking at this entire thing, right? It's the left that wants to control, and we have to fight for liberty. right? We have to take the Jefferson quote in which liberty is only going to survive as long as the people remain educated. When you become educated, you don't worry about political correctness. You don't worry about offending people. You worry about the truth. That's what's important. It's not the narrative behind the truth, but the truth itself, because the truth will go against your narrative. It will go against your confirmation bias. It will go against a lot of those things. And that's what's important, is to fight with the truth. Is there any situation where censoring is justifiable? I don't believe so. So in my world, no, absolutely not. Right? So when you speak about a real crime, I think that you should be able to. So here, let's paint this picture. Let's say there's a man that says, "No, I disagree. Lincoln Memorial does not need to come down." Because I don't believe in removing history just because you want to burn a book. I disagree. So a man commits a crime, and now a man feels free because it's a free speech area, and he talks about committing that crime. Now you actually have grounds in order to get rid of it, right? You can actually go after a criminal who committed a crime because he was free to speak. I'm okay with that. If somebody makes a joke, whether it's a on color, off color, whatever kind of joke it is, you can know about that person. That person is free to say what they want to say. If you don't like what that person's saying, you're free to not associate with that person, and you can allow them to say their disgusting things on their own. We allow a lot of disgusting rhetoric to come from the left. We don't beg for them to be silenced. That's the right way, right? When somebody wants to hit one of your sacred cows, if you will, you have to understand that. You got a license for the joke, mate? When they hate your sacred cow, you can understand, hey, that person doesn't like my sacred cow, whatever it may be. And you can freely disassociate from them. I'm the kind of person, you hit my sacred cow, I'm willing to challenge you on your ideas. I'm willing to challenge you on anything, whether it's a joke or an honest discussion. I'm willing to challenge you on anything that you say. And that's the way that society should be. That's the way that the founders wanted it, because nothing should be off the table. Everything should be there to be able to be said. That's what's important. And so I disagree with social media platforms deciding that they can. I'm entirely 100% against the government saying that they can, especially when the First Amendment is quite clear in that everyone has freedom of speech. Because freedom of speech, freedom is not limited. Freedom is an absolute word, right? If you are free to do what you want to do, that means that there's no limitations as to what you want to do. You're free to choose whatever form of employment you want. That means that any job out there that you want to have, you're free to go. You're free to pick this. I've always been this way. I'm always, yes, we will get into the Kaepernick. I said we will get into the Nike and the Kaepernick thing. Yes, I will get into that. We'll rehash that entire topic once again. So you're free to say whatever you want to say. And there's people that won't like it. There's people that will speak against it. Don't silence them either. Allow everyone to be free and to say what it is that they want to say. Now, let's go into the Colin Kaepernick. So Colin Kaepernick had his ad from Nike. The whole basis behind where this started from was Colin Kaepernick wanted to not stand for the national anthem. That was the whole beginning. He sat for a couple games, and then finally the people caught on to it. And when people caught on, they became outraged, right? He was sitting for the national anthem. He was sitting on the bench. Then he was spoken to by a former Green Beret who was a long snapper. And that former Green Beret said, look, when you want to show respect, you actually kneel. That's something that the military does. So he started kneeling. Now, it is absolutely 100% freedom of speech. Now, what was the purpose behind Colin Kaepernick? Was to talk about the atrocities. HGM, all right, I appreciate you joining in for tonight. We're just going to knock this out real quick, and we'll be moving on. But if you want to bow out, I appreciate you for joining in, at least. So Colin Kaepernick wanted to talk about the police brutality, about atrocities that were happening in this country. And people took it as, he wanted to offend against the flag. If he wanted to offend against the flag, he has every right to do so. He is free to aggress against the flag in any manner, right? That's your sacred cow. That's your sacred cow. It's okay. If it, and so that's the freedom of speech on that aspect. What has happened is that his message was entirely lost because rather than actually speaking to people and speaking to people that may have disagreed with him, he offended people. He shut off lines of communication. He failed to do what his mission was, and that was to open up the eyes of the people. Instead, what he created was a divisive methodology in order to divide the people, right? A divisive methodology in order to divide. I used divide twice for a very specific reason. We are extremely divided on this topic, right? When I talk about this and I say it's within his rights to do that, you know how many people immediately turn off, right? We were at like 14 people in here. Now we're already down to 6, right? I lose people just by saying he has the freedom to do what he wants to do. I'm a free speech absolutist. So when he does that, he's free to do that. You can absolutely 100% stop purchasing Colin Kaepernick things. You can protest against the NFL. You can protest against those advertisers against them. I don't tell you not to. Do what you want to do. It is a free market. It is a free country. Do as you please. I'm okay with it. We will get to cops and body cams. I know that you are stuck on this stuff, Thomas. Just hold your horses, bro. So Nike lost about $4 billion. It was just under $4 billion. It was like $3.5 to $3.8 billion was lost by Nike initially once they placed the ad with Colin Kaepernick. Everyone, I'm sure everyone has seen the great, fantastic Nike memes that have come out from this, right? There's been an absurd amount of beautiful, beautiful, hilarious memes that came from this. But the idea was that sacrificing everything, just do it, right? Do something that was, do something that you believe in, even if it means sacrificing everything. We know that he didn't sacrifice everything. We knew that he was getting paid before then. We knew that he was getting a contract deal from Nike from this. We knew that he was making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. It's not really that much of a sacrifice. It's a false narrative, and I wish people would stop pushing that. So as it continued on, what we saw was actually Nike increased their online sales, went up about 31%. So Nike is actually made, in some ways, is going to be increasing the revenue that they make from this because again, he was able to divide people. So the people that he divided, right, the amount of loss that he came from the people that he oppressed and pushed away, Nike was able to capitalize on the people that agreed with him. So they have their free market. They are going to continue on paying for Colin Kaepernick. More people are going to be pushed away. More people are going to be pulled in. And that's the way that this goes, right? Instead of fighting for unity, we are fighting against division once again on another big topic, and everyone wants to get spun up about this. The important thing to know, Nike is free to do what they want to do. You want to boycott them? Boycott them. If you want to buy their stuff and then burn their stuff, buy their stuff and burn their stuff. You're helping them by hurting them. I don't really understand the logic. If you already have stuff and you want to burn it, burn it. If you want to actually donate it to somebody and actually put it to a good cause, donate it to the homeless, donate it to people that are in need, you're a better person for it. You're better than a lot of people. But do what you want to do with it. It's an entirely stupid situation whole the way through. I wish that the entire Colin Kaepernick thing would go away. Agree with the message, but not the method. Exactly. It was this methodology that caused the division. It wasn't the message. It was the methodology, right? The message was being sent by protesting during the national anthem when the ensign is being having a ceremony for it. Welcome in, Millie. Welcome in, Kim. And yeah, it's all about money, and they're making money on this. So one of the other comments that came in was cops hate body cams. Cops have actually been very, there's a mixed bag of them, right? Bad cops are against body cams. Good cops are in love with body cams. There's been many reports that cops were being racist, that were being hateful, that were being aggressive against people, that were being violent. And the result of those body cams actually showed that the officer was being cordial, that was being professional, and actually got them out of a sticky situation. I remember watching a couple hours of videos in which cops were honorable and were actually doing their job, and they were actually relinquished of the hateful allegations that were being made about them. So it was beautiful to see. So there are cops out there that love those things, and we should love those cops that do good jobs, right? The cops that don't do good jobs, the cops that hate that they have a body cam, that they can't go and blur the lines and become violent and all this other stuff, or whenever they're found out, right? We should love the fact that they are being that there's a a line of evidence in order to prove the wrongdoing. So it's a good thing, right? It's a good thing for both sides. So I'm all in favor of transparency for the government. I'm all in favor of transparency when it's the cops. They're bad cops and good cops. It's just like bad football players and good ones. Exactly, MBK. You're already smart. You're already proven to be smarter than a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, right? Because too many people say all cops are good, and too many people say all cops are bad. It's not that there's always a bad apple in the bunch. In any bunch that there is, there's bad teachers, there's good teachers, there's bad doctors, there's good doctors, there's good lawyers, there's bad lawyers, there's bad cops, good cops, there's good and bad of everyone. There's great senators that actually understand and that are willing to go on during Judge Kavanaugh's hearing and talk about the Constitution, that is willing to talk about the president, that's supposed to talk about Congress relinquishing his authority. And that's a good senator. And then you have other senators that are saying, hey, it's just the book that you carry around, right? That's a bad senator, right? Kamala Harris, Ben Sass. We can see which one. We can objectively look at which one actually understands which job is theirs and which one lives in a fairy tale land. One's running for president probably in 2020. One is not. If the other one, if Ben Sass was running, he would get some votes for that. Kamala Harris is getting votes because people want to undermine it. They want to destroy this, right? We have to understand what the roles of government is, where the limitations are, and just getting rid of the Constitution is not going to be beneficial to the American people in any way. I think the issue is that they feel bad cops are getting away from these crimes. There are some bad cops that are getting away with their crimes. They're being not being properly scrutinized through the judicial system, and they're getting off free. I will openly admit that there are bad cops out there that are getting away free because there's a bad system surrounding them. I completely agree. There are also bad laws that enable good cops to be bad people. There's many flaws that comes to our judicial system, that comes to our police enforcement and the laws surrounding thereof. And these are things that need to be looked at, they need to be fixed, and they need to be solved. Yes, judges absolutely as well. Lots and lots of issues. And so this is why I would urge you guys the importance of the Second Amendment, right? Regardless of who it is, if somebody is unjustly threatening your life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness, you are, by the Constitution, able to defend your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If you are in the right, you are able to actually defend yourself from that situation. Yes, body cams are good for that very reason. They're able to be there to expose the bad cops. And so it's those things that are important. It's those things that are so very important to us, is that we have the transparency, and the transparency being viewed by these webcams, or not webcams, but body cams. Very important, very big topic. Another big story that came up in recent past was, if you guys listen to the Joe Rogan Experience, his podcast, he has on a lot of famous, smart, intelligent, sometimes not smart, sometimes not intelligent, sometimes not famous people onto his show in order to talk about just real world experiences, talk about what's going on, right? He's had people like Brett Weinstein from Evergreen State College, who's basically fired from his job for going in on White's Not Allowed Day, right? A very racist day in which nobody who was white was allowed to go to college, whether it was a professor. All right, appreciate it, Millie. Whether it was a professor or a student, they were not allowed because of the basis of their skin color. And he said, that's racist. No, a very, very progressive man was standing against the open racism of the left, and he was fired for that. He went on Joe Rogan Experience. We've had, I believe, Dave Smith, an anarchist, an ANCAP libertarian. He went on Joe Rogan, right? So he takes people from across the political spectrum. He takes non-political people. He takes comedians, and he takes anyone and everyone onto a show that will come on, and he has conversations with them. In the recent week, he had on Elon Musk. Now, if you guys have somehow missed all the news around Elon Musk is the CEO of Tesla. He is also the big man, the big brain behind SpaceX, the government subsidized space program in which he helps innovate the space program in order to ship things out into space. He's probably going to be a big part of the Space Force, if you're in favor of that. So Elon Musk, a very smart individual who's been going through some pretty rough times in his life because there's a lot of volatility going on. He's got his hands in a lot of different baskets, and you can see that he's getting to the emotional and intellectual exhaustion stage where he's just doing too much. I know he's been having some issues with what was the drug that Rosie O'Donnell was taking? Not Rosie O'Donnell. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr took a drug and then she made a quote unquote racist tweet. It was that same drug. So he's been utilizing that drug as well in recent past. It's been causing some really disfavorable results for his stock market and for his companies. And so he comes on the Joe Rogan Experience, and Joe Rogan is a huge Ambien. Thank you. Joe Rogan is a huge advocate for marijuana. I think he's right on this. There's absolutely zero deaths that have occurred from overdosing on marijuana. It's like basically impossible. You just eat more Cheetos. There really hasn't been direct results from marijuana use and the death of others. There's also a multitude of medicinal purposes for using medical marijuana, such as ADHD, PTSD, depression, anxiety. If you have tremors, if you have eating disorders, there's just a long laundry list of things that marijuana helps you with. And so while Elon Musk was on the Joe Rogan Experience, Joe Rogan had given him a blunt. And so he had smoked the blunt, but he didn't inhale. So he did the same thing that Clinton did. And this caused a huge controversy. He was in a state where it was legal, but he had smoked it, but didn't inhale it. And this caused his stocks to go down. This costed the trust of his corporations to go down. This costed everything to him for him merely interacting with something that is nonviolent, something that is not a crime, something that should never be a crime. And people have lost their minds over this. So I want to open up the conversation a little bit, and I want to know from you guys, why is there this stigma that if somebody smokes marijuana, that it makes send me a meme, absolutely. That makes marijuana such a dangerous thing for our society. Yes, he has been accused of stock manipulation by tweeting about going private. Yes, there's been plenty of different organizations that have done the same thing, and that's not to view that as stock manipulation. Pardon me. I think is a little bit of a stretch because he is a public thing, and so having a public discussion about things before he makes the decision, I don't think that that's inherently a stock manipulation thing. No, I'm always down. So it's looking at this entire situation, and a lot of people want to point at this marijuana thing, and they want to make it seem like this is what is taking down Elon Musk. He's just some pothead. He's not in it for the long run. He's not in it to be a philanthropist. He's not in it to make the country better. And so he's become a joke. We've seen the memes on it. I'm sure a lot of you have as well. And it's just downright disgusting. I hate the fact that so many people want to call us a free country, but they don't want people to be free. A lot of them are mad because he didn't share. and so when you have a situation like that, I think that an honest conversation needs to occur. And we can see when people are against freedoms on a small topic or in an absolute. We can see when people are fed a narrative, a stigma that has been passed by a corporation, by those greedy capitalists who tried to, I forgot the individual's name and I apologize for this, but a man who was selling things and knew that hemp was going to be a disastrous thing for his corporation. And so he encouraged the government to pass legislation to limit the use or to limit the freedom of this. It was built up upon, right? The entire stigma around the negative effects of marijuana was built up on the idea that corporations, that a country would not do better with it. Now, I will be honest with you. More people smoke marijuana than what you would ever expect, because it's not really that bad of a drug. Even before it was starting to become legalized around this country, there should be no federal laws on the inhalation of cannabis. It should be a state issue, and that's all it should be. Now, I think it was Austin Peterson. Austin Peterson made a great tweet about this. He spoke about, hey, look, now we have Arnold Schwarzenegger. We have Michael Phelps. And now we have Elon Musk, all that have partaken with marijuana, that have achieved great things in this country. Maybe it's time we sit down the Jeff Sessions of this country and have an honest conversation about this. Yeah, the gateway drug. The gateway drug is always an interesting topic, right? If we ban marijuana, we're banning the gateway drug. But if we just allow people to smoke marijuana, we make other things illegal, maybe they won't make that transition. Well, maybe drinking beer will be the next gateway drug. Maybe smoking tobacco will be the next gateway drug. And it's just all about, it's just ridiculous, right? Even the opioids, even fentanyl, even heroin, even methamphetamine, even whatever you want to call it, whatever drug it is it really a crime against humanity? Is it a crime against society for someone to be using that? He is. Is it really a crime against society, humanity? Who is the victim in these crimes? Without a victim, how is there a crime? A crime should be predicated on the idea that somebody has been violated by another, right? If a farmer produces a bad crop, a spoiled fruit, a spoiled vegetable, something that gets somebody sick, right? Do you go after the farmer? No. So you shouldn't go after the drug dealers. You shouldn't go after the people producing these drugs. You shouldn't be going after those who are distributing these. And you certainly should not be going after people who decide to ingest whatever it is that they want to fulfill their life, their liberty, or their pursuit of happiness. Things that are supposed to be protected by our federal government, not infringed upon it. It's things like that that just make me so frustrated. So this entire Elon Musk situation, it bothers me on such an extent that the stigma is what people live off of. It's the fear. It's the fear that I didn't choose that life, therefore you cannot. I don't have to be a gay man to say it doesn't hurt me for somebody else to partake in gay marriage. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't affect me if somebody else wants to have a sex change. It doesn't hurt me if somebody else doesn't want to sell me a good. It may make my life a little bit more difficult, but they are free to do so. They're free because they own whatever they produce. They are free because they're able to do what they choose to do with their life. We need to fight against these stigmas. We need to fight against the untruths. We need to fight against the lies. We need to fight against the deceits. That is what I encourage each and every one of you to do, to find the truth, to fight against your own narratives, your own opinions, and everything else, and to find the truths behind what it is. It hurts me if you're driving too slow and I'm in a hurry. No, that's the steering wheel because you punched it too hard. Don't blame me because I don't know how to go the speed limit, all right? There might be wind out there. You don't know. So but if people want to be whacked out of their gourd all day, they shouldn't have government assistance. So I don't think that you need to have that first part of the statement before the comma. That's an unneeded qualifier. They shouldn't have government assistance. I agree with you. They shouldn't have government assistance. Nobody should have government assistance. Right there with you. Right there with you, Ben K. See, it's ideas like that. Why is it that we have? Let's just go through all the libertarian topics tonight, I guess, right? Why do we have a government that decides on how they can take money from one person and provide it to another? That good that they did is nullified by the bad that they did in order to take from another. When we understand that entire line of reasoning, when you take from one to give to another, you are stealing. You are stealing from one to give to another. That stealing is wrong. That stealing is immoral. That stealing will always be immoral. The ends do not justify the means. It's not trigger topic. And so it's, love you, Dad. Thank you for joining in. Wow, you guys are eating early. 3:45 over there. And so there's no justification on this, right? If you want to talk about taking from one within a society to provide to the society, right? We could have a better discussion about this. But if you want to take from one and provide to another, there's obvious wrongdoing there. You're taking the fruits of one labor and forcefully, through the threat of violence, taking it from one and providing a life for another. Does that create responsibility? Does that create dependency? It obviously creates dependency. It creates a dependency because they know that this money is guaranteed to them. They don't have to sought after creating more fruits of their labor. They don't have to work as hard. They are provided for. It is that ideology in which the federal government understood, the state government understood that they can gain votes by doing so. And when you have that level of dependency, you hurt your people. Who's going to feed the kids of crackhead parents? Ooh, I don't know. Crackhead parents, maybe? Fantastic idea. How about some responsibility in their lives? Oh, you don't feed your children? Well, now we can talk about child neglect. Now we can talk about a crime because you're actually directly hurting somebody by neglecting them, somebody that you have responsibility for. They don't. Ooh, so then you have a crime. Guess what you can do if there's a crime? Let's talk about what you do if there's a crime. There's this judicial system. There's this law enforcement. And you say, if you do a crime to another person, you shall be punished, whether it's taking of their funds, whether it's taking of their time, taking of their liberty and putting them in a cage, rightfully so, with a due process. Ooh, wow, right? So when you talk about crimes being committed, so who's going to feed the kids? I'm sure that there are plenty of people out there that are willing to provide to those in need. I'm sure that I can walk down the street and I can find corporations that are willing to give to those that are needy. But currently, right now, in most states, it's illegal to give away free food to other people. Would I? I absolutely would. I have in the past. I go and I actually provide to the homeless that are around me. If I have a couple extra bucks, I'll go buy them water on a hot day. I'll buy them a sandwich. I'll buy them sunscreen. I'll buy them small little things in order to help provide them with something. But at the same time, I don't make it a systemic thing where I'm constantly providing for them. I want to encourage them. I usually have a discussion with them. Hey, what are you doing to try to find employment? What are you doing to try to provide for yourself? If they say nothing, I usually tell them that's what they're going to return from me. But if they lie to me and they tell me, hey, I'm actually applying for jobs, I'm like, hey, where have you applied? Where have you actually tried to provide for yourself? And I'm willing to help people who are trying to help themselves. It's important. It's important in a civilized society. But taxation to do this. Exactly. My choice rather than being compelled by the government. Exactly. But it's the idea that this taxation that is going to others through welfare, through an entitlement, through whatever system, a social safety net, right? That is taxation that makes us the slaves. And that is taxation because we live in an uncivilized society, an uncivilized society that doesn't take care of its own, an uncivilized society that is determined that the government is able to enact laws to prevent us from providing goods to others. I can't go to a public park with a hot dog stand and start handing out food. I actually have to charge them for something. So if I put a nickel out there and I say, hey, I'm charging you a nickel for this plate and I'm going to give you free food on it. I can get away with it that way. But as long as there's nothing, if there's nothing being transaction, or if there's nothing in a transaction between those two, then I'm violating the laws in most states, South Carolina included in that. It's amazing that the state is able to refute competition, is able to prevent competition on providing to others, because the state must know. The state, the federal government, which is just another state, they must know that our society is much better than what they want to portray it as. It's much better than what the media wants to portray it as. We will be able to provide to others when more is not taken from us. When people actually are out there trying to provide for each other, they're more often than not more successful than those who just want to stick their hand out and hope that it gets filled. Exactly. Trying to poison kids. Exactly. I would put a social safety net for the disabled, vets, and children. I would not. I would not. The veterans would be the closest one that I would accept, because the veterans are veterans of the state. The state put them in a situation in which they became disabled, they became hurt. And so that would be one that I would argue would be the state's responsibility. But for whenever you're disabled or a child, no, you don't have to apologize. Never apologize for your opinion. Never apologize for your opinion. Apologize for lies, for deceit, but never apologize for having an opinion. When you have children or disabled, right, there's a hierarchy in which people are supposed to drive or be able to obtain things. And that is through your family, through your neighbors, through your community, through your church, through your locality, right? Somebody will be there to provide for you. And there's plenty of free market corporations that are willing to provide for those in need. And there's plenty of ways that we can help each other. And it doesn't once require the state in incapacity. I'm just going to say it now. The state is both the states, so all 50 states, as well as the state of the federal government. That is a state. All these are synonymous. When I say the state, that's what the state means. So none of this requires the state. None of this requires the goodwill of the state to take from one to provide to another. It can be a voluntary thing. Now, when we talk about the morality of this, when we talk about the goodness of providing to another, do you feel good knowing that your tax dollars go to another person? You may say so, but you don't feel that. When you get your paycheck, you don't instantly go, I'm providing for others. I feel so good about that, right? No, you go, all right, I just lost $70. I just lost $100. I just lost $200. I lost however many dollars it was. It kind of frustrates you a little bit. But then you have to remind yourself. You have to remind yourself, this is what it's going for. And then that's when you get the good feeling, if you do. But if I took that, right, and instead of having that $200 being taken from me, if I go and take that $200 and I go to a local town or local city and I see a couple homeless people and I provide to them, I'm going to feel great. I'm going to feel awesome. I don't need to post it on Instagram. I don't need to post it on YouTube. I don't need to post it on Facebook. I don't need any of the social media to make me feel good. The act of giving, of having compassion for another person, of sympathizing for them, for empathizing with them, that is what makes you feel good. But when you're forced to do something, you lose that feeling, that justness, that compassion that you're giving to another. And that's something that is being taken from us, not being asked of us, but being taken from us. And this is something that we should all be railing against. And BK, you said I have a better view of people than what you do. I don't think that all people will do this. I don't. But I know that there's plenty of great philanthropists out there of all wages. I don't make a fancy living. I don't make a lot of money. And I still am able to provide for others. And I'm sure that there are plenty of other good-willed people out there. We have 330 million people in this country. There are enough people in there in order to provide for others. Can they provide them with a wealthy life? No, neither can the government. Can they provide them with enough to sustain themselves? Maybe not, but they can provide them enough in order to will them to make a change in their life, right? When somebody is struggling, this is something that is inherent in the human condition. When you are struggling, when you are put with your back against the wall, more often than not, you will continue to fight, kick, and scream before you go down. But if you tell them, here's an easy out, they will take that 10 times out of 10, right? They will take the easy out. Maybe not 10 times, 9.9 times out of 10. They will take the easy out. There are some people out there that won't, that are just so determined to get themselves out of these holes, and I applaud them every day. But there's enough there. And I promise you, the less that the state provides, the more that the market will. The more that the state provides, the less that the market's allowed to. And you see the difference, right? The less that they're allowed to. They'll diminish the ability, they'll legislate, and they'll prevent the competition of giving, the competition of compassion, the competition of loving each and every American out there, right? Another good point of this was, if we look back to the hurricanes of last year, these hurricanes devastated Texas. And what we saw was people of all ages, of all ethnicities, of all creeds coming together in order to help. Yes, the market is the individuals. The individuals is the market. I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. The market is the individuals. Let's be honest with you, right? Because a market doesn't survive without the individuals, and so it's that entire encompassing umbrella. Because without the individuals, there is no market, right? No matter how much something is provided, if there's no demand for it, there's no sale. So, in Austrian economics, individuals are the important thing. So it's this entire situation in which we fundamentally understand that the state cannot have a monopoly on something, and this is something that a lot of people. I'm even discussing this with one of my coworkers, who's hopefully I'll have him on the show one day, because he's a very bright young individual who is an entrepreneur, owns a business already at the age of 21, and is growing. And we're having this discussion about social safety nets. We've been having it for like 2 days now. And it's this idea that getting rid of the monopoly. How about this? Instead of having the monopoly, let's say that we just remove the legislation surrounding the goodwill of the people, allowing people to provide for others. If you want to take the food from another and you become sick, sorry, that is your choice. So that removes that legal reasoning behind why you can't provide food to another in a public forum without having sale. So, but you will see good people providing to others. And that competition will ultimately result in the people demanding less of the government and more from each other. And it's that demand that will result in the supply. It's that demand that will result in the supply from the free market. Because imagine this, right? When we look at corporations right now and we say, look, this corporation just donated during, what month is that? November? During November to breast cancer. Beautiful, right? Their sales go up. Their sales go up because they provided good to others. Yeah, exactly. Their sales go up because they provided to a group of people that are undergoing a traumatic process. When somebody donates to Haiti after the earthquake, when a company donates to hurricane relief, right? We see their profits go up because people want to buy from good-willed people. And so that's going to increase the supply to those to the people that are in misfortune. It's that idea that we can grow it, we can expand it, but the only thing stopping us is the government itself. The government prevents us from being able to donate. They prevent us from being compassionate. They prevent us from being empathetic. They just stop us. They stand in our way. Yes, and instead, right, the compassion of helping a big corporation, right, talking about over there in wonderful state of Washington State, right, the lefty state of Washington, giving $8.1 billion subsidy to Boeing because Boeing is not a big enough corporation already. And you have to make sure that Boeing stayed there. And instead of just providing tax cuts to all and allow corporations to go where it would make most sense for them, they go wherever the best deal is. We saw this with Amazon. Amazon had a list of 25 states that they wanted to go to. And the way that they were determining this was not based off of the population, wasn't based off of the population density, it wasn't based off of where it would make most sense for them to sell their products. It made more sense for them on which state was going to be most beneficial for them. Why give them the authority on that? Why give them the power on that? Cut it off, allow corporations to be free, allow the corporations to go wherever they see fit, and to provide to the economy around them. It's that idea, right? It's this Austrian economics, once again, allowing people to be free and allow businesses to boom. If you see all the big corporations are in the heavy overpopulated cities, you're going to see businesses grow up in the smaller towns, and they're going to build up and they're going to grow. And then they're going to build other branches in other smaller towns, and they're going to keep filling it up. And you're going to see eventually, by opening this up and by cutting off the taxation, you're going to see businesses going into areas where we don't have businesses now, where people are impoverished, because there is an opportunity to grow. So they're really like at the ground root of this all. The taxation is the competition. The taxation is the preventing of good companies. The legislation, the laws, they're preventing the compassion. Everything that we talk about, we can point to the countries, of the companies, of the people, of the cities, of everything. They're preventing us from being as good as we can be. The state itself prevents us from being as good as we can be. If that's not the most libertarian statement ever, I don't know what is. It is the state itself. As a minarchist, as somebody who believes in the minimalist state possible, that is the most true statement that you can ever think of. So with that, I'm going to bid you guys adieu. It is Sunday night, which means the next time I'll see you guys is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I appreciate you all for joining in tonight, for sharing this out, for getting your friends involved, for the retweets, for the hearts, for the super hearts, for everything that you guys have provided for me. Please do go on the Patreon page, patreon.com/MrBeardedTruth, and you guys are going to be helping me build up the platform. Buy a new desktop to where we can do this all from one platform, from one webcam, a higher quality webcam, get a better mic, get a better platform to be able to produce better content for you guys in the long run. So patreon.com/MrBeardedTruth. I'm sorry for pimping myself out like that, but I appreciate you guys. This will never once in the history of ever become a monetized thing where I'm forcing you guys ever to pay for this. This will always be free content, and I appreciate you all for joining in, for helping me out, for supporting me in any way possible. So thank you all. I appreciate you. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys on Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I am Mr. Murica, the Bearded Truth, Jason Lyon.